I didn't open the holiday card right away. It was thick, heavier than the usual corporate mail, cream-colored envelope with a snow-dusted illustration on the front. The handwriting stopped me. Clean, slanted slightly to the right. Confident. Familiar in a way that made my stomach tighten before my mind caught up. Julian's handwriting. I was standing in the lobby of the Harbor View Hotel, glass walls facing the marina, people moving in clusters with wine glasses and polite laughter. This was his firm's end-of-year reception, partners, spouses, a few clients, the kind of event where you're expected to smile and stand close, where appearances matter more than truth. I turned the envelope over. Julian and S. That was it. No last name, just a letter, intimate, assumed. My fingers went cold. "Hey," Julian said, coming up beside me, already reaching for my back. "You okay?" I looked at him. Really looked. The tailored navy suit I'd helped him pick. The watch I gave him after his promotion. The practiced calm in his eyes. "You expecting mail here?" I asked. He blinked once, too slow. "What?" he said. I held the card up between us. "This came for you." He stared at it. I watched the calculation happen in real time. How much I knew, how much I didn't. Which version of the truth he could get away with. "Alyssa," he said quietly, leaning in. "Not here." "Who is S?" I asked. He exhaled through his nose, glancing around. People were close enough to hear if they tried not to. I felt it then. The shift. The moment where I realized this wasn't going to stay private no matter how hard he wanted it to. "It's not what you think," he said. I laughed once. It came out sharp. "Wrong. You haven't even asked what I think." "Alyssa!" I opened the card. "So glad we finally get to celebrate together. This year felt different with you. I can't wait for more holidays like this. Love, S. Love. Not best. Not warm wishes. Love." My vision tunneled. The noise of the room faded to a dull hum, like I was underwater. "How long?" I asked. Julian reached for my arm. I stepped back. "Please," he said. "You're making a scene." That was it. That was the sentence that snapped something clean in my chest. I raised my voice. Not yelling. Clear. Steady. "A scene would be lying to my face," I said. "This is just the truth showing up early." A woman nearby froze mid-sip. Someone else turned fully toward us. Julian's jaw tightened. "Can we talk somewhere else?" he said through his teeth. "No," I said. "You can talk now." He swallowed. His eyes flicked again, searching for exits, literal and otherwise. "It's been a few months," he said finally. "It didn't mean a few months?" I repeated. He nodded, barely. I felt heat rush up my neck, but my hands stayed steady. That surprised me. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was suddenly very calm. "And her name?" I asked. He hesitated. "That's not fair," he said. I smiled. It felt foreign on my face. "Neither is signing your name on holiday cards with another woman." Someone cleared their throat behind us. A couple stood awkwardly to the side, pretending not to listen while doing nothing else. Julian leaned closer. "You're embarrassing me." I tilted my head. "You embarrassed yourself." That was when I saw her. She stood near the bar, slim, dark hair pulled back, holding a glass she hadn't touched. She was watching us, not shocked, not confused, expectant. I followed Julian's line of sight and felt something inside me settle into place. "S," I said softly. "That's her." Julian didn't answer. I walked toward her. The floor felt solid beneath my feet, like gravity had doubled just for me. "Hi," I said, stopping a few feet away. "I'm Alyssa, Julian's wife." Her eyes widened, then narrowed. I didn't know." "That's interesting," I said, "because he's been married for 14 years. She looked at Julian. He didn't move. "He told me you were separated," she said quickly. Too quickly. I nodded. Of course he did. The room was fully quiet now, Not silent, but attentive. This wasn't background noise anymore. This was a story. I turned back to Julian. You brought her here. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, he said. I believed him. That didn't help. I reached into my bag and took out my ring. I placed it gently on the cocktail table beside us, next to a bowl of sugared cranberries. I won't compete, I said. I won't explain, and I won't clean up your mess. Julian's face drained of color. Alyssa, don't do this. I'm already doing it. I looked at the woman one last time. You can have him, I said. But you should know, everything he touches eventually costs more than it's worth. I picked up my coat. As I walked toward the exit, my phone buzzed. A text from Julian. Please. Let's talk. I didn't reply. The glass doors slid open, cold air hitting my face, sharp and clean. The marina lights shimmered on the water, indifferent and steady. I stopped just outside, breathing once, deeply. I wasn't broken. I was done being blindsided. And as I walked away from that building, away from witnesses, lies, and borrowed affection, I made myself a promise. He took my trust in private. I would take back everything else in plain sight. People like to believe betrayal announces itself loudly, that it comes with shouting, obvious distance, slammed doors. Mine arrived quietly, folded into routine, disguised as ambition and fatigue. Julian and I met in our 20s, back when everything felt provisional. He was smart, driven, restless in a way I found exciting. I was steadier, the planner, the one who made lists and kept promises. We balanced each other, or at least that's what I told myself for years. When he got his first serious offer in real estate, I said yes before he finished the sentence. Yes to moving. Yes to long hours. Yes to dinners eaten alone. I shifted my own career into something flexible, consulting work I could pause and restart, because someone had to be available for school pickups, parent meetings, the 1,000 invisible tasks that hold a family upright. I didn't resent it, not at first. We were building something. The down payment for our first home came from my parents. They'd left me a small inheritance, not life-changing money, but enough to give us stability. Julian called it our starter boost. I let that slide, even when my name wasn't the one praised when the house value climbed. When Iris was born, Julian cried. I remember thinking that meant something permanent. I thought it anchored him. The warning signs, when I look back, were painfully ordinary. His phone started staying face down. Work trips stretched an extra night. He became protective of his calendar, vague about meetings. When I asked questions, he smiled and told me I was overthinking. I wanted to be the woman who trusted her husband, not the one who counted minutes. There were small moments that didn't fit, a text notification that vanished too fast, a name I didn't recognize mentioned casually, then never again. He started dressing differently, nothing dramatic, just enough to notice. New cologne, new playlists. I told myself success changes people. That marriage requires flexibility. The card proved how wrong I'd been. The day after the reception, I sat at our kitchen table while Iris ate cereal, the holiday card open in front of me. The handwriting glared back like evidence I hadn't wanted to collect. Mom? Iris said. Why didn't Dad come home last night? He needed some space, I said, choosing each word carefully. She studied my face longer than a child should have to. Did he do something bad? I swallowed. Yes. She nodded once, too calmly. I thought so. That broke me more than the card. Later that morning, my sister Lena came over. She didn't ask why. She took one look at my face and pulled out her phone. I didn't want to be wrong, she said. But I saw them together last month. The room tilted. Where? A coffee place near his office. They weren't hiding. How long? Lena hesitated. Long enough that I hoped it was nothing. I stared at the wall, memories rearranging themselves into a new shape. Late nights, short tempers, the way he'd stopped asking about my day. Did you tell him you saw them? I asked. No, I wanted you to know first. That was the confirmation I needed. Not suspicion, not instinct. Proof that this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a second life he'd been living without me. The stakes clarified fast. This wasn't just about infidelity. It was about resources, stability, and my daughter's future. Our finances were intertwined in ways that now felt dangerous. Julian handled most of the accounts. I'd trusted him with that because we were married, because trust was supposed to be the foundation. I started making lists. Not revenge lists, inventory lists, accounts, properties, insurance policies. I logged into everything I could still access and downloaded statements. I photographed documents with my phone, my hands steady despite the storm behind my ribs. I thought about the house, about my parents' money inside its walls, about Iris's school, her friends, her sense of safety. Julian texted me that afternoon. I can explain. I didn't answer. Instead, I called my mother-in-law, not to accuse, to listen. She sighed before I finished my sentence. I was hoping you were wrong, she said quietly. He's been distant. That was it. 3 confirmations. 3 people who loved me enough not to lie. By evening, the shock had settled into something harder and more useful. Resolve. I tucked Iris into bed that night and brushed her hair the way I always had. Is everything going to change? She asked. Yes, I said, but not in a way that hurts you. She leaned into me. Okay. After she fell asleep, I sat alone in the dark living room, the holiday card torn neatly in half on the coffee table. Julian had mistaken my patience for passivity. He'd mistaken my love for blindness. And in doing so, he'd given me the clarity I needed to protect what mattered, and to make sure this betrayal cost him more than it ever cost me. I didn't wake up angry. I woke up precise. The shock had burned off overnight, leaving something cleaner in its place. Not rage, not sadness. Clarity. The kind that doesn't ask permission before it acts. Julian was still gone. No good morning text, no apology. Just silence, like he was waiting for me to make the next move so he could react instead of lead. That alone told me everything I needed to know. I got Iris ready for school as usual, lunch packed, hair braided. Routine matters when everything else feels unstable. When she walked out the door, backpack bouncing, I closed it behind her and stood there for a moment, listening to the quiet. Then I started. First, the accounts. I logged into our joint checking and savings. Years of trust unraveled in minutes. I changed passwords, enabled 2-factor authentication. I opened a new account in my name only and transferred half of every joint balance into it, leaving clear records of what I'd moved and when. Not hidden, documented. Fair. Julian had always told me, we're a team. Teams don't drain accounts without warning. I froze the joint credit card. The notification confirmation felt almost polite. Next, the lawyer. I didn't ask friends for recommendations. I searched for someone who specialized in asset-heavy divorces with children involved. I booked the earliest consult available and sent over scanned documents before they even asked. Deeds, statements, proof of my inheritance. The holiday card photo included as context, not emotion. When the attorney called me back, her voice was calm. Interested. You've already done half my job, she said. I took that as confirmation I was on the right track. By noon, I was moving through the house with a different eye. I photographed valuables, jewelry, artwork. The watch collection Julian liked to display as if it were an accomplishment. I wasn't taking anything yet. I was establishing existence. I packed a bag for him. Not dramatically, just efficiently. Work clothes, toiletries, his laptop charger. I left it by the door like an unspoken boundary. The house wasn't a battlefield. It was a site under new management. That afternoon, I called a realtor. I want a valuation, I said, quietly. She didn't ask why. By the time Iris came home, I was back in mother mode. Snacks, homework, normalcy. Julian texted again while she was in the room. Can we please talk? I turned the phone face down. After Iris went to bed, I sent my first message of the day. I've secured my share of the accounts. We'll communicate through counsel. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Reappeared. You had no right, he typed. I stared at the screen. You lost the right to surprise me, I replied. His call came immediately. I let it ring. The second call? I answered. What are you doing? He demanded. You can't just lock me out. I didn't lock you out, I said evenly. I protected myself. This is insane, he said. You're overreacting. There it was, the familiar minimization. The attempt to recast betrayal as hysteria. I'm reacting proportionally, I said. You built a second relationship. I'm building an exit. You're going to ruin everything, he snapped. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, You already did. I'm just making sure Iris and I don't pay for it. Silence stretched. Where am I supposed to go? He asked finally. I looked at the bag by the door. Not here. He showed up an hour later, stood on the porch like a stranger, keys in hand. I opened the door but didn't step aside. This doesn't have to be war, he said. It does, I replied, because you started it without telling me. He glanced past me into the house. Can I at least grab a few things? You already have, I said. Everything else will be coordinated. His face hardened. You think you're so in control. I met his gaze. I am. He took the bag without another word and walked away. I closed the door slowly, deliberately. No slam, no spectacle. The vow I'd made the night before didn't feel dramatic now. It felt operational. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was executing. The consequences didn't arrive all at once. They trickled in, uneven and relentless, like water finding cracks in a foundation Julian had assumed was solid. The first sign came the next morning. My phone buzzed while I was pouring coffee. A bank alert. Attempted charge declined. I didn't need to guess whose card it was. Julian had always used the joint credit line for everything. Lunch meetings, ride shares, hotel upgrades. He'd never worried about limits. He'd never had to. I imagined the pause. The second attempt. The irritation turning into confusion. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Did you freeze the card? He asked, skipping hello. Yes. You can't do that without telling me. I did tell you, I said. I said we'd communicate through counsel. This is punitive, he snapped. No, I said calmly. This is preventative. He hung up. By noon, the emails started. Short, polite, masked as professionalism. His firm's finance department requesting clarification about a personal account Julian had used for reimbursable expenses, a missed auto draft for his car payment, a late notice on a storage unit I hadn't known existed. He was scrambling. I stayed quiet. Silence is unsettling to people who expect arguments. Julian had always relied on emotional chaos to regain control. Tears he could soothe. Anger he could outwait. What he didn't know how to handle was a woman who stopped explaining herself. That afternoon, Lena called me. She texted me, she said. Who? I asked, already knowing. The woman, S. I exhaled slowly. What did she say? She asked if you knew. As if that's still an open question. Did you respond? No. Good. The next ripple came from our social circle. A neighbor asked if everything was okay after seeing Julian leave with a bag. A mutual friend sent a vague message about hearing things and hoping we were working through it. I replied to none of them. Letting other people sit with uncertainty is its own kind of boundary. By the second day, Julian was calling more frequently. His tone shifted. Less anger, more urgency. They won't extend the credit line, he said on the phone. I have expenses coming up. That sounds stressful, I replied. You're enjoying this, he accused. I looked out the window at the backyard I'd landscaped myself, the lemon tree I'd planted with Iris years ago. I'm securing my future, I said. Your discomfort is incidental. He went quiet. That evening, Iris asked why Dad hadn't come by. He's staying somewhere else for a while, I said. Because he broke a rule? She asked. Yes, I said. She considered that. Then it makes sense. Children understand fairness better than adults pretend to. The real shift came on day 3. Julian showed up unannounced. Not at the house, he knew better, but at Iris's school pickup. I saw him across the parking lot, talking to another parent, smiling too wide. I walked straight toward him. Now is not the time, I said quietly, my voice steady but firm. I just wanted to see my daughter, he said. You can, I replied, through the schedule my attorney sent you. His jaw tightened. You don't get to dictate? I do, I said, because you made yourself unpredictable. A few parents slowed, curiosity flickering. Julian noticed, stepped back. I'll be in touch, he muttered. That night, my lawyer forwarded me an email. Client experiencing sudden financial restrictions. Requests interim access. Her response was brief and surgical. Denied. Status quo preserved pending full disclosure. I slept better than I had in days. The last consequence of the week arrived quietly. A message from Julian's mother. I didn't raise him to do this. I'm sorry. No defense, no excuses, just acknowledgement. I read it twice before replying. Thank you. Iris is my priority now. Julian texted late that night. Please. This has gone far enough. I stared at the words for a long moment. He thought this was the punishment. He had no idea this was just the adjustment period. The system he depended on, my labor, my patience, my silence, had been withdrawn. And for the first time since I'd known him, Julian Nilman was standing in the open, exposed, realizing that consequences don't announce themselves. They arrive, and then they compound. The invitation arrived 3 days later. A charity dinner Julian's firm sponsored every year. Formal seating, donors, a short program, microphones. It was the kind of event that pretended to be about giving while quietly measuring status. I hadn't planned to attend. Then my attorney forwarded me the guest list. Julian had confirmed. So had S. I told my lawyer I'd handle it. The restaurant was downtown, glass and steel overlooking the water. When I walked in, the room dipped for half a second, the way it does when a story enters before the person does. Eyes lifted. Conversation stuttered and resumed. Julian stood near the bar, suit pressed, posture rigid. She was beside him. Not touching this time. That alone told me something had already shifted. I took my seat at a table near the front. Not hiding, not hovering, present. The program started. Applause on cue, polite laughter. Julian's partner gave opening remarks. Then Julian's name was called. He was scheduled to speak about leadership and trust, ironic enough that I almost smiled. He walked to the microphone, cleared his throat. That's when I stood. I didn't rush. I didn't raise my voice. I simply walked forward until I was close enough to be seen and heard. Before you begin, I said, calm and clear, I have a clarification. The room froze. Julian turned, eyes wide. Alyssa, this isn't... I'll be brief, I said, since trust is the topic. A murmur rippled through the tables. Phones appeared, subtly, then less so. I'm Julian Nilman's wife, I continued. Or I was, until recently. I wanted to confirm, publicly, that the woman he brought here tonight is not his spouse. S stiffened beside him. This isn't appropriate, she said, voice tight. I agree, I replied, meeting her eyes. Neither is attending a public event as a couple when one of you is still married. Julian reached for the mic. Alyssa, stop. I didn't touch the microphone. I didn't need it. I'm not here to argue, I said. I'm here to correct the record. I turned to the room. If anyone here has been misled about our status, now you know. Julian and I are in the middle of divorce proceedings following his affair. Gasps. Whispers. A chair scraped. S stepped back from Julian as if realizing, too late, that proximity now cost her something. "You told me this was handled," she hissed at him. He didn't answer. That was the moment. The fracture. The exact second the fantasy broke. She turned to me. "I didn't know he was still living with you," she said, louder than she meant to. I nodded. "Now you do." Julian's face had gone gray. "Please," he said. "We can talk after." "There is no after," I said. "There is accountability." I looked back at the room one last time. "Enjoy your dinner. I just didn't want generosity confused with integrity." Then I stepped away. I didn't wait for applause. I didn't wait for permission. I walked out while the silence followed me like a held breath. Behind me, voices rose. Confused, urgent. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else said Julian's name like a warning. Outside, my phone buzzed immediately. A text from a mutual friend. That was unforgettable. Another. "I'm so sorry." We had no idea. Then one from Julian. "You humiliated me." I stopped on the sidewalk, the city humming around me. "No," I typed. "I told the truth where you told lies." The final message came 10 minutes later. "She left," he wrote. I pictured it easily. The quiet unraveling, the sudden realization that standing beside him now meant inheriting his fallout. I didn't respond. By the time I got home, the video was already circulating. Short clips. No commentary needed. Just facts, delivered cleanly. The mic drop line people kept repeating wasn't shouted. It wasn't cruel. It was simple. "I'm not here to argue. I'm here to correct the record." And for the first time, the record belonged to me. Julian tried to get ahead of it. That was his instinct. Control the framing, soften the edges, turn damage into misunderstanding. Within 24 hours of the dinner, he was calling people I hadn't spoken to in years. Old friends, former colleagues, anyone whose opinions still carried weight. He told them I was emotional, that the separation had been mutual, that the charity dinner had been poorly timed and misinterpreted. He told them I was struggling. I didn't interrupt. Letting him talk gave him enough rope to contradict himself. By the second day, a carefully worded post appeared on his professional profile. No comments allowed. Personal matters should remain private. I regret that a difficult transition was made public. I'm committed to moving forward with integrity. Integrity. The word sat there like a dare. I forwarded the post to my attorney. She replied with a single sentence. "If he's invoking integrity, you're clear to respond factually." That night, I did something Julian never expected me to do. I spoke plainly, not emotionally, not defensively. Precisely. I posted once. No captions that begged sympathy. No dramatic language. Just a timeline. Dates. Photos of the holiday card. Screenshots of messages with timestamps. Nothing graphic, nothing obscene. Just undeniable overlaps. Business trips that coincided with lies. Separated claims while he was still sharing a home with his wife and daughter. I didn't tag him. I didn't name her. I didn't editorialize. I ended with one line. This is the context behind my decision to protect my child and my assets. Within an hour, the narrative flipped. People don't like being lied to, especially when they realize they were used as background noise for someone else's deception. Messages flooded in, not to ask how I was feeling, but to say the same thing in different words. "Thank you for clarifying. This makes a lot more sense now." "I'm sorry I believed him." Julian called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail instead. "You're destroying me," he said, voice tight. "This didn't need to go this far." I listened once, then deleted it. By morning, his post was gone. Comments had been turned back on. Too late. Screenshots had already circulated. Someone stitched my post and his apology into a side-by-side comparison that made the contradictions impossible to ignore. A hashtag appeared by accident, then stuck. Not mocking, not cruel, just factual. Nor correct the record, It wasn't trending in the way celebrities trend. It spread in smaller, sharper circles, professional networks, community groups, donor boards, places where reputation is currency. Julian's firm released a statement by midday. "We are aware of the situation and are reviewing internal policies." He texted me immediately. "Did you contact them?" I typed once. "No, I stopped covering for you." That was when panic finally replaced arrogance. He showed up at the house that evening, ignoring the boundaries we'd already set. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. "This is out of control," he said. "People are taking sides." "They always do," I replied. "You just assumed they'd take yours." "You're enjoying watching me fall," he said. I studied him. The slumped shoulders, the rehearsed desperation. "I'm watching you experience consequences," I said. "Those aren't the same thing." He ran a hand through his hair. "She won't answer my calls. That happens when people realize they were lied to." "You ruined that too," he snapped. I met his eyes. "No, you did. I just stopped hiding it." Inside the house, Iris laughed at something on her tablet. The sound grounded me. Julian's voice dropped. "What do you want?" I considered that. Not in anger. In truth. "I want you to stop pretending this is about embarrassment," I said. "This is about trust, and you broke it everywhere. At home, at work, in public." He swallowed. "Can we at least agree to keep this offline?" I shook my head. "You went offline when it benefited you. I'm done absorbing the cost of your secrecy." He stood there for a long moment, then stepped back. "I don't recognize you," he said quietly. I closed the door. "That's because I stopped performing." Over the next few days, the fallout accelerated. Invitations were quietly rescinded, meetings postponed. A board position Julian had been angling for vanished without explanation. His name stopped appearing in group threads where it once dominated. No one announced his fall. They just stopped including him. By the end of the week, his credibility wasn't damaged. It was undefined. People didn't know what to do with him anymore. And in spaces like ours, uncertainty is fatal. Julian texted one last time that night. "I can't fix this." For the first time, he was right. And for the first time since the holiday card arrived, I slept without replaying anything in my head. The truth was out. The escalation was complete. Everything that followed would be structural, not emotional. And structures, once exposed, collapse exactly as designed. The legal part wasn't dramatic. That surprised people. They expect courtrooms and shouting, grand speeches and last-minute reversals. What actually dismantled Julian's life happened in conference rooms, email threads, and signed documents that arrived exactly when he wasn't ready for them. My attorney moved fast. Full financial disclosure was requested within days. Julian's delays only hurt him. Missing paperwork, incomplete statements, accounts he forgot to mention. Each omission tightened the timeline and weakened his position. The inheritance mattered. Once it was formally traced, bank records, deposit histories, property documentation, it became undeniable. The house wasn't just marital property. A significant portion of its equity was directly tied to my parents' estate. Julian's argument that it was shared money now collapsed under scrutiny. Custody followed logic, not emotion. Iris's routine had remained stable. Same school, same home, same primary caregiver. Julian's housing situation, by contrast, was temporary and unstructured. Hotels, a friend's couch, then something vague he refused to clarify. Temporary orders were issued. Primary custody to me. Supervised visitation schedule for him until consistency could be established. Immediate restrictions on shared financial access. He read the summary twice before asking, "Is this a joke?" "It's a result," his attorney replied. The financial unraveling accelerated after that. Julian's firm finalized their internal review. Nothing criminal, nothing explosive, just enough ethical misalignment to quietly remove him from leadership tracks and client-facing roles. Bonuses disappeared. Future incentives evaporated. The version of his career he'd been climbing toward no longer existed. He called me that night. "They're freezing my compensation," he said. "I can't keep up with the payments." "That's not my responsibility," I replied. "You're taking everything," he said bitterly. "I'm preserving what was already mine," I said. "You gambled the rest." The mistress vanished entirely. Her social media went dark. Mutual contacts stopped mentioning her. I later learned she'd left the company she'd met Julian through, not fired, but encouraged to seek opportunities elsewhere. Association had become liability. She sent one message, just one. "I didn't know it would end like this." I didn't answer. Julian's family was slower, but not blind. His brother stopped returning calls. A planned family trip was canceled without explanation. His father, usually silent, immovable, asked to meet him for lunch. That conversation ended their relationship. I know because Julian told me, voice hollow. He said he couldn't respect what I'd done, Julian said. That I'd confused appetite with character. I closed my eyes for a moment. He's not wrong. The final blow landed quietly. Julian missed a support payment deadline. Not because he refused, because he couldn't. The court adjusted accordingly. Wage garnishment. Asset liquidation. The watch collection he'd once displayed with pride was appraised and sold. Not for sentiment. For math. By the end of the month, he no longer had a fixed address. He texted once from an unfamiliar number. "I don't know where to go." I stared at the screen, thinking of the night he'd come home late and told me I was imagining things. Of the holiday card. Of Iris asking if rules had been broken. "You should ask yourself that," I typed. "Before you ask me." I blocked the number. From that point on, news of Julian reached me secondhand. Then not at all. That's how isolation works. Not with noise, but with absence. No invitations, no updates. No one calling to check in. He hadn't just lost a marriage. He'd lost access to stability, to narrative, to the people who once buffered his choices. And the hardest part for him wasn't the money, or the housing, or even the reputation. It was realizing that when everything stopped working, there was no one left willing to pretend it wasn't his fault. Julian asked to see me one last time through his attorney. Not to negotiate, not to argue custody, not to appeal the financial terms, just to talk. I said yes, not because he deserved it, but because endings should be clean. I chose the location. A quiet cafe near the courthouse, all glass and daylight. Neutral ground. Public enough to keep him contained, private enough to avoid spectacle. He arrived early. I could tell because when I walked in, he was already standing, scanning the room like he was waiting for a verdict. He looked smaller. Not physically, though he'd lost weight, but in posture. The confidence that used to lead him into rooms had been replaced by something tentative, almost apologetic. His jacket was wrinkled. His shoes scuffed. Details I never would have noticed before, back when I was invested in protecting his image. I sat across from him and placed my phone face down on the table. "You look well," he said. "I am," I replied. That alone unsettled him. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The hum of conversation around us filled the space, normal life continuing, indifferent to his collapse. "I didn't think it would end like this," he said finally. "That's because you never thought it would end at all," I said. He flinched. "I made mistakes." I met his eyes. "You made decisions." He nodded slowly, as if repeating it internally, testing how it felt out loud. "I loved you," he said. I didn't respond. "I still do," he added quickly, desperation leaking through. "I don't know how things got so far away from us." I leaned back in my chair. "You didn't lose me," I said. "You abandoned me. There's a difference." He swallowed. "I was unhappy." "You were dishonest," I replied. "Unhappiness doesn't require deception." His hands shook as he wrapped them around his coffee cup. "I never meant to hurt Iris." "And yet," I said calmly, "you did." That landed harder than anything else. His face folded in on itself. "I'm trying to get back on my feet," he said. I just need time. You've had time, I said. You spent it elsewhere. He looked up sharply. Is there any chance, that we could reset? Start over? I studied him then. Not the man I'd married, not the husband I'd defended, just the person sitting in front of me, stripped of leverage, stripped of illusion. No, I said. The simplicity of it stunned him. You're not even angry, he said. I was, I replied. Anger did its job. It woke me up. His voice cracked. I lost everything. I didn't rush to contradict him. I let the silence do the work. What you lost, I said finally, was access. To what? He asked. To me. To my labor. To my silence. To the version of our life that made yours possible. He stared at the table. I don't recognize myself anymore. That's not my responsibility, I said. Self-recognition comes before repair. He looked up again, eyes wet. Please, I just need to know you don't hate me. I thought about that, truly. I don't hate you, I said. Hate would mean you still occupy emotional space. You don't. That hurt him more than anger ever could. I see you now, I continued. Clearly. And clarity ends attachment. He reached across the table, stopping just short of touching my hand. I miss our family. So do I said. But families require honesty. What you miss is convenience. His hand dropped. I'm not here to punish you, I said, standing. I'm here to close the door you keep knocking on. He stood too, panic rising. Alyssa, please. I raised a hand. Not harsh, final. This is the last time we speak outside of parenting logistics, I said. You don't get my empathy anymore. You used it up. He nodded, defeated. I guess this is goodbye. I looked at him for a long moment, then shook my head. No, I said. This is freedom. I turned and walked out without waiting for his response. The air outside was bright, unremarkable. Cars passed. Someone laughed. Life continued. I didn't look back. Not because I was afraid of what I'd feel, but because there was nothing left to feel. He'd taken enough from me in private. This time I left in full view, and I didn't carry him with me. A year passed without ceremony. No countdown. No milestone moment where everything suddenly felt healed. Life didn't resolve itself in a montage. It steadied, slowly, quietly, the way real stability does. I stayed in the house, not out of nostalgia, but because it was ours in the ways that mattered. Iris kept her room, her school, her friends. The lemon tree bloomed again that spring, fuller than it ever had. I took that as coincidence, not symbolism, but I noticed it all the same. I went back to work on my own terms. The consulting projects I once treated as side income became central again. Word spread, not through pity, but competence. I was focused, decisive, unavailable for nonsense. People responded to that. They always do. Iris changed too. Not hardened. Clearer. She asked fewer questions about her father, and more about how things worked. Money, schedules, choices. We talked honestly, without burdening her with details she didn't need. She learned that love doesn't excuse harm, and that boundaries aren't punishments. They're protections. Julian became background noise. At first, updates filtered through lawyers and school schedules. Then fewer. Then none. His visits stabilized but never deepened. He stopped trying to explain himself, stopped trying to be seen. That was the real consequence, not the financial loss, not the professional setback. Irrelevance. I ran into him once, months later, at a grocery store. He looked tired, older. He nodded. I nodded back. That was it. No charge, no pull. Just two people who no longer occupied the same story. I realized then that revenge isn't loud when it's done right. It doesn't gloat. It doesn't linger. It simply removes the betrayer from the center of your life. Everything I rebuilt afterward came from that space, not fueled by anger, but by clarity. I no longer questioned my instincts. I trusted my judgment. I didn't negotiate my worth for peace. Betrayal teaches you something brutal and useful: that love without accountability is a liability. Freedom, I learned, isn't about winning. It's about choosing yourself early enough that you don't lose years recovering from someone else's choices. Julian thought secrecy protected him. What protected me was truth, and the willingness to act on it. The holiday card is gone now, thrown away with the rest of what no longer belongs to me. What remains is quieter, stronger, and entirely mine. Before you go, thank you for staying with this story until the end. If it resonated with you in any way, don't just scroll past it. Click the hype button and let me know you felt it too. I'd really love to hear your thoughts or your own experiences in the comments below. This channel is built on real stories, real emotions, and real growth. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap like so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you in the next story.